your side there, there's a car backing up. Yeah. Hey. Uh, more than past, that's what it says. Wherever you go, wherever you go. Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary to you guys. How was it? Did he play you music? You know, did he play you? No, he did. All right. Just want you to know I gave you the good one. You know, good Stanley Bogey.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
I know. I try to think. Eric, good to see you, man. How are you? All right. Just mind the wires there. That's it. Neil, good to see you. Good. You'll tell me how everything sounds. You know, that's important. Let's. Okay, sounds good from here, which is good. Hi guys. Let me test it out. Mike Bromberg, you can hear me okay? Margaret, you can hear me okay? Good. Lauren, say something.
Hello.
Together, but if she wants to, virtually. Oh, the Shabbos horn.
I tell you that during like lockdown, I discovered that you could hear the like Shabbat siren from my mom's house, but then also from my apartment. But I couldn't hear it really in Israel at my apartment, where I always missed it.
Well, one thing I learned about sound waves is that they'll surprise you how far they can go and otherwise. But
My mom was like, "Yeah, you could always hear it." I never really thought it was like a fire.
I think that's the problem. How do you tell one siren from another?
It sounds pretty different.
I suppose that's true. So since we don't have the same problem that's inside, there's a part of me that actually thinks. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. That was very muted at best. Very best. Let's try that one more time. Shabbat Shalom. Look, we have to put on a good show for everybody, okay? We're out here in the world now. They're going to make all sorts of assumptions about us if we're so lackadaisical. All right, Bonnie's got her hands up. That works. That's very good. So this is kind of miraculous. Oh, Steve, you good? I was waiting for it. It was an inevitable part of the experience for sure. But we welcome all of you, those that have been with us forever, those that are joining us for the first time, those that are, believe it or not, watching us on Zoom or on our live stream. And thank you, God, for all of these unbelievable cables that seem to make all of these things work together so nicely, and for providing this wonderful day, which didn't look so great at the beginning, but now we've got all of this. And we got Cantor Lauren with us, and we only have a mild chance of somebody driving a car across the grass. So as always, be extra careful, be aware of your surroundings at all times, and smile and sit back and sing. And especially because we don't have masks on, I can actually see all your beautiful faces, which is really lovely. So hopefully you've got a Siddur, you've got a prayer book. And for those that are following along at home, just a reminder again, if you're following the flip book version, you're really trying to match up the bracketed numbers with what we are using in our prayer book, just to make things extra complicated. So we're going to start our service with Yedid Nefesh on page 128.
Yedid Nefesh Harachaman, Yedid Nefesh Harachaman, Meshocha B'cha, Eretzonecha, Meshocha B'cha, Nananayay Eretzonecha.
We'll turn now to page 120 as we light and bless our Shabbat candles. I'll attempt to light here, and then the cantor will do the blessing. Thank you, Neil. Sound is wonderful from Neil. That's a very high compliment. Better than it. Yes, that is true. Okay, Cantor, you take it away, page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Turn now to page 130 as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat together at the very top of the page.
Let us sing unto God a new song. Let us sing unto God a new song.
on page 131, Shiru Ladonai at the very top of the page.
Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai shir chadash. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai shir chadash.
We'll turn now to page 132 at the bottom of the page, or Zarua.
Or zaru ala tzadik, uleishrei lev simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik, uleishrei lev simcha. Simchu tzadikim Adonai, lehodu lezecher kodsho. Simchu tzadikim Adonai, lehodu lezecher kodsho.
We'll turn now to page 134, Zamru Ladonai at the very top of the page.
Zamru Ladonai bechinor vekol zimra. 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 Zamru Ladonai bechinor vekol zimra.
We're now on page 135, Romamu, which is the last Hebrew paragraph in the middle of the page.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishachavu behar kosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishachavu behar kosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
התרחבו בהר קודשו.
We'll turn now to Lechado D on page 138. A reminder, we'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraph. And as we know from our experience, for the final paragraph, the tradition is to stand and to face the door that you've walked in through. So in this case, it doesn't quite work the same. So you could pick any direction. Face towards Neil, face towards Jerusalem, whichever you prefer. But we'll trill if it's easy enough to stand up. If you're in Steve's chair, Steve, you stay seated. Okay? Again, page 138 at the top of the page.
Lecha doini likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha doini likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha doini likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor וזכור בדיבור אחד, ישמיענו אל המנוחת, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ותחילה. lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. לקראת שבת לכו בניך, כי מקור הברכה, נרוש מקדם נסוכה, זו מעשה במחשבה תחילה. lecha dodi לקראת kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Fifth paragraph.
Hitoreri, ki ba'orech umi'uri, uri shir daberi, kevod Adonai alai nefila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Rise in body or spirit.
בואי בשלום העטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Please be seated. We're now on page 140.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. לשיר שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. צדיק אתה מאוד יפרח, כארץ מלבנון ישנא, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובו משיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי, ולא עוולתמו.
We turn now to page 144 and we rise in body or spirit for the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ילמד דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם עולם מעליה יתמרח, יתמרח וישבח, יתפאר ויתרומם יינשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי קודשה בריחו, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירה בעלמה, ויאמרו אמן.
Remain standing as we turn to page 146 for the Baruch.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Marechu et Adonai hamevorach, Baruch Adonai hamevorach, le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Yai, 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 nai, yai, nai, 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 yai, nai, nai, yai, yai, nai, 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 yai, 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 nai, yai, nai, yai, nai, yai, nai, nai, yai, yai, nai, nai, nai.
Okay, please be seated. We'll turn now to page 149 and we'll read together in English at the very top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב הרביב.
Amen. Turn now to page 150.
אהבת עולם את ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו למדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו וקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח מדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם לאורך ימינו ובהם נגד יומם ולילה מאהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
Please join me on the top of page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך וקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet. We'll turn now to page 157 and we'll read together in English at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. There is a better place, a promised land. That the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We turn to page 158, Michamocha at the top of the page.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף פלט נורא תהילות אוסף פלט מלכותך ראול בניך בוקע יום לפני משה ומרים זה לי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם העד אדוני ימלוך לעולם העד.
Baruch atah Adonai Gaal Yisrael. Turn now to page 160, Hashkiven.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu, השכיבנו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו השכיבנו בשלום. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm.
I'll turn now to page 162, Vishamru at the very top of the page.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת לנפש, שבת לנפש, שבת לנפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
I'll invite you now to rise in body or spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164. And as always, we'll start together, then we'll continue silently from that point on. My best guess is east is roughly that direction if you so choose to face that way. Otherwise, your time is yours. So again, we'll begin together, page 164, and then continue silently from there.
שפתי תפתח ופי תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Ay, 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 עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Turn now to page 371 as we offer our Mishaberach, our healing prayer for this evening. And before I read the names of those in our community that we're thinking of tonight, of course, we continue to pray for the people of Ukraine, and increasingly over the last several weeks of now several shootings across the country in which we are praying for the communities most directly affected. This evening we're thinking in our community of Sydney Ross, Roberta Kyle, Rivka Bat Yehuda Babela, Eve Rose, Michoel Ben Hananya, David Kyle Klotman, Benzi Teffer, Samuel Moskowitz, Devorah Bat Sima, Michael Klinghoffer, Norma Balsack, Amy Cass, Steve Levine, Rivka Bat Rachel, Gail Gambino, Leah Bat Naomi, Gedalia Ben Sylvia, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sylvia Devorah Bat Francis, Myra Peskowitz, Chaim Leib, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Paul Eric Feuden Bat Esther, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriella Rose Spicer, Dina Batchana, Marjorie Rubin, Andrew Paris, Phyllis Fisher, Moshe Eliezer Ben Yakutiel, Judy Yang, Maxine Eisenstadt, Lorraine Davis, Jeffrey Miller, Brad Friedman, and Paul Greenfield. In addition to the names that we just shared, we'll invite those watching on the Zoom or on stream to share names at home. And for those that are with us here tonight, we don't have two sides to conveniently work through, so I'll just ask anybody who has names to share to raise a hand, and I'll try to move from this direction to this direction. Amy, why don't you go ahead? We'll join the cantor on page 371 in the middle of the page as we join together for our Mishaberach.
Avotenu bekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the one before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirits, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Cantor, you can take a break, and we even have a chair for you over there. It's just like we're inside. Great. Good Shabbos, everybody. And before I give any other words, I really do have to say this is a remarkable thing. Right? This is a remarkable experience to be able to be outside somehow or another. All of our friends watching at home still be able to see this. And I think the most profound thing for me was when we got to the Shema. right? There's something really powerful about amplifying that sound, right? Of that, what we oftentimes refer to as the credo of the Jewish people. To be able to hear that, to blast it out to even our ancestors in the watch case factory, probably hearing it all the way down the street. There's something really quite profound about it. I don't want us to lose, especially these days, to lose these moments of some amount of wonder, even if they come via technology. I think it's really quite wonderful. And it really is great to see all of you and really be able to see your faces as well. So this Shabbat is Parshat Bamidbar, which also happens to be my bar mitzvah anniversary. And I'm going to rely on somebody who's much better with counting. So I turned 41 this year. I was born in 1981. So what year is this? Anybody? Al Levin, can you tell me in the back? Like, we'll work on this. Whatever it is, it's not quite 20 yet, but it's getting close. And I think all of us that have had the experience of bar bat mitzvah, we do have these moments in which we sort of think back to those days and try to imagine sort of what it was like and what it was about. But I think that being a rabbi, being a cantor as well, because you work with B'nai Mitzvah students as often as you do, it takes on actually a very different kind of sensation, a kind of feeling for me, especially right now, as we've been in a series of B'nai Mitzvah over the last several weeks in our community, and working with each of these students and seeing sort of what that experience is like for them. And it really has sort of hit home for me. And I went back to this portion, and I went back to a concept that I was familiar with, but I really wanted to explore the text itself, and really try to understand a little bit better about why this Parsha of Bamidbar and why this idea of Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness, not numbers, by the way, in case you're wondering, right? What does this word mean to us, and why is it so important, and why does it actually find its way into the beginning, explicitly mentioned in this way? So the first thing, as I said, to understand is that we often mistranslate the names, not mistranslate, we translate the names into English of all of our books of the Torah, and they sometimes are sort of misnomers. But Bamidbar really means in the wilderness, and it begins by basically saying God spoke to Moses Bamidbar. And so the rabbis look at this text and they say that's a sort of strange thing. What is necessary about emphasizing this idea that, God speaks to Moses in the wilderness? It'd be very easy to just do what is done many, many times over in the Torah, which is Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe. God spoke to Moses. Location is less considerate, and certainly right now, we shouldn't need that reminder. We just finished a whole book of the Torah describing the building of the Mishkan and all this stuff. We know we're in the wilderness. But as the rabbis always understand and try to convey to us, the words in the Torah are never superfluous. There's something there that we are meant to see, something to really take into ourselves. So tonight I want to share with you a teaching, and this really actually comes from a wonderful colleague of mine, Rabbi Nicole Auerbach, who is one of the rabbis at Central Synagogue in the city. If you don't know who she is, try to find some occasion to learn from her, learn with her. And she sort of took this question, and she did some really remarkable work of bringing together a few different sources to try to unpack this idea. And hopefully by the end of it, it will mean something to you as much as it means to me on the anniversary of my bar mitzvah. So this question of why does the Torah open with this word? Why do we focus on the word Bamidbar? There's a few possibilities. The first that Rabbi Auerbach brings to us is from Numbers Rabbah, which is one of the great collections of Midrash. And it says as follows: Adonai spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai. Why was the Torah given in the wilderness of Sinai? In other words, why not wait until we're in the land of Israel, for example? Why not wait until we're in Yerushalayim? Right? Why does it take place in the middle of nowhere? Okay? And even though we don't know exactly where Mount Sinai is, anybody that's ever had the experience of being in the Sinai desert will tell you, you are in the middle of nowhere. Quite literally, nothing. Right? Nothing in any direction. We have one Israeli in the room outside who's nodding his head, who understands this is really the definition of wilderness. Okay, so why in this case? The sages taught Torah was given to the accompaniment of three things: fire, water, and wilderness. Why was the giving of the Torah marked by these three features? To indicate that as these are free to all the world, in other words, anyone can have access, presumably, to fire, to water, and ultimately to wilderness. And the second is anyone who does not make themselves open. The word in Hebrew for this is hefker. In other words, ownerless, actually completely without anybody sort of taking ownership. Okay, just like it is in the Bamidbar, in the wilderness. Okay, nobody can claim ownership to a barren wasteland, so to speak. If we don't make ourselves open in that way, then we can never acquire wisdom in Torah. Okay, so the rabbis of the Midrash basically say that Torah and wilderness are connected not just by geography, but actually they're connected in a much deeper kind of way, that they are telling us that there is something unique about the wilderness, something that we are meant to emulate, and by emulating it, are better, if not actually requiring of us in order to be able to receive the Torah. So the next text that Rabbi Auerbach brings is from Rabbi Eitan Fishman and a book that he writes called Becoming Like the Wilderness. So you can see where this is going. So here he quotes from Rabbi Bachya ibn Bakuda, who restates an earlier Midrashic teaching, and he says, why does the Torah emphasize God's speech to Moshe in the wilderness? It was to teach that a person does not attain the Torah until they have made themselves, again, empty and abandoned like the wilderness. In Hebrew, Ein Adam koneh HaTorah ad she'ya'aser atzmo hefker kamidbar. To receive the revelation of Torah, we're taught, or perhaps a little bit less grandly, to let Torah take root in one's heart, a person must first make themselves into a midbar, into a wilderness, an inner empty wilderness that is cleared of all the weeds and brush that obscure true perception and feeling. A wilderness that returns to the first purity of nature. So where does this all really come from, right? These rabbis are actually a little bit later on. It comes back actually to a story in the Talmud, which I want to share with you from Masechet Eruvin. So in it, we have a conversation. Rav Matana said, which is an interesting wordplay, which you'll see. Matana is a gift. Okay, so Rav Matana said, what is the meaning of that which is written? And a later quotation from the book of Numbers, and from the wilderness they went to Matana, to a place called Matana. And it says, if a person makes themselves humble like the wilderness, which again is open to all and upon which everyone treads, his Torah study will ultimately endure and be given to him as a gift, as a matana. And if not, his Torah study will ultimately not endure. So in other words, it doesn't matter who you are, how great a rabbi you are. If you aren't capable of making yourself kamidbar, like the wilderness, then your Torah, your teaching, is not going to endure. In other words, it will pass from this world and no one will remember. The Gemara then relates a story about Rav Yosef, who had a grievance against Rabbah, the son of Rav Yosef Bar Chama. Don't worry, these are both very significant rabbis of their time. And they basically have a disagreement. And the disagreement is so bad that they basically wouldn't see each other. Okay? They don't want to have anything to do with each other. So on the Erev Yom Kippur, Rabbah, who is the younger of the two rabbis, says, you know what? I'm feeling Yom Kippur. I'm going to go and I'm going to go appease him. I'm going to go see him and make him feel better about this stuff. And he went and he found Rav Yosef's attendant, mixing him a cup of wine. This just as an explanation, as I explained to you during the Seder, for those that were with us. When the Torah is talking about 4 cups of wine, for example, the Talmud's talking about 4 cups of wine at the Seder, back in the day, they used to have a concentrated version that they would mix water into. So they were drinking something very heavily diluted and therefore much less alcoholic. So if you actually drink 4 full cups of wine in the Seder, you're doing technically the right thing, but don't be surprised if you're a little more something at the end of the evening than I think the rabbis intended. But basically, that's the action. So here Rav Yosef is sitting, and he's expecting a glass of wine, and he goes, Rava goes in and says, okay, I'm here, and I'm going to go to his attendant, and I'm going to take over the responsibility. And he says to the attendant, give the cup to me, and I'll go mix it. And he gave it to Rava, and Rava mixed it. And Rav Yosef, you should know, was blind. So he couldn't sense who the visitor was, and Rava didn't announce himself as would be proper. And instead he goes to kind of mess with him a little bit, right? Taking advantage of his age and his inability to see. And in the end, Rabbi Yosef takes one sip, and he immediately knows that something is off. And he says, you know what, this reminds me of the way that Rava, the son of Rav Yosef Bar Chama, would mix water, and he would do it improperly, and he would add too much water. And Rava said to him, it's I, right? In other words, the jig is up, the joke is over. So Rav Yosef says to him, don't just sit over there, okay? Come over here, and I want you to explain me the purpose of the following 3 verses. And this, again, is quoting from a different part of the book of Bamidbar. I promise this will all make sense. And it says this, and from the wilderness, from the Midbar, to a place called Matana, and from Matana to a place called Nachaliel, and from that place, Nachaliel, to Bamot, and from Bamot, ultimately, to the valley. So what is this about? Rava says to him, if a person makes themselves humble like the wilderness, this should start to sound familiar, which is open to all and upon which everyone treads, the Torah will be given to him as a matana, a gift. So again, if we are like the Midbar, we get the Torah as a matana, as a gift. And once it is given to that person as a gift, they inherit it. Okay, the word for Hebrew, right, nachal in this case, is ultimately, not nachal, but nechalo, inherits it, and God ultimately makes it their inheritance. In other words, it goes from a gift to an individual rabbi, and now it becomes something of their inheritance. It's something that they're going to pass to the next generation. And from matana to Nahaliel, and once God has made it to his inheritance, He raises it to greatness, as it is stated, from Nahaliel, which again is this word for inheritance, to Bamot. Bamot is implying basically a high place. So we're seeing a sort of evolution of an idea here. Okay, a person needs to make themselves like the Midbar in order to receive the Torah. Once they've received it, then it becomes their inheritance. They can pass it on to the next generation. And if they are able to achieve that, they go even higher, and they go up to the highest levels from which it can spread even further. Okay, and once God has made it their inheritance, right, rises to greatness, as it's stated from Nachaliel, to Bamot, which means the heights. And if in the end, though, becomes haughty, right, gets to this high place, and then becomes arrogant about it, right, says, I'm the greatest rabbi, I know everything, everybody loves my Torah, you know, how wonderful I am, and I pat myself on the back and put myself on television, all those kinds of things, then we see the reverse start to happen. Okay, so we go again from this idea of wilderness and to inheritance, right, from gift to inheritance to all the high places, and then we're brought back down into the valley. If we lose that sense of humility, if we lose that sense of giving up that which is significant to us, then we end up in the lowest possible place, worse than when we started. Okay, so what is this ultimately about? So here from Rabbi David Shoham, he says that another reason why the Torah portion of Bamidbar, okay, and this is really key, it always appears right before the holiday of Shavuot, which is the holiday where we commemorate the receiving of the Torah. Okay, when it comes to this time period, it is to teach that if you want to merit receiving the Torah, right, and not a guarantee, not a given, you must make yourself, again, like the wilderness, Kamidbar, to have a great measure of humility and to feel no reason for pride, to know that you are bare and lacking all, just like the wilderness. So now let me try to tie all of this text together and try to make this make some kind of sense. So as a basic concept, we all, according to tradition, receive the Torah at the same time. Okay, that's the main idea of the rabbis when we celebrate Shavuot. We're both thinking about it as our ancestors experienced it. We're thinking about it as how we experience it here in Sag Harbor. The main idea of it is that we are all receivers of Torah. Every Jewish person has this opportunity to receive the Torah itself. But there are different ways to receive it. And depending on how we approach the process of learning Torah, of receiving Torah, and ultimately of teaching it to others, if our process is one that is focused on the self, focused on self-aggrandizement, focused on a narrow scope that helps us to support our ideas and refute others, if we focus again on the idea of our ego, if we focus on the idea of accumulation of whatever it may be beyond our needs and beyond whatever reasonable person should need, every time we do something of this nature, we bring ourselves further and further away from it. And that counterintuitively, according to the rabbis, the best way to receive the Torah is to actually to let go, right? To remove all of the stuff that accumulates, right? As one of our sources says, all the weeds that grow over, all of the junk that builds up. Any of us that have a basement, right? Use that image in your mind of just how amazing it is for us to accumulate junk. The same thing happens in our spirits, right? Every day that passes, we can take in all of the tumult around us, all of the things that really are actually taking our attention away. And it's sometimes the best way for us to receive Torah is to try to find ourselves in a Bamidbar kind of mentality, one in which we are really trying to picture, even if you've never been in the particular wilderness of the Sinai, there's a good chance you've been somewhere in your life that fits this description, right? In which really it's you and whatever you believe and nothing else. And it's hard to do that in our world. It's hard to create a sense of Midbar when we're not there. Okay, we're all sitting outside, there are jackhammers going, cars going by, and yet somehow or another, it's exactly what we're doing. It's because we have an ability as human beings to filter. We don't always use that ability, but we have it innately built into us. We have the capacity to determine the wheat from the chaff, the necessary from the junk. And too often, we come into this holiday, if we even pay any attention to it all of Shavuot, with the mindset that it's more like a gift that's given to a child that's taken for granted, instead of something that we actually have to actively take upon ourselves. That's the image that the rabbis ultimately have. It's Kabbalat Ol HaMitzvot, of literally taking on a yoke of responsibility when we receive the Torah. But to do that in a meaningful kind of way, we really actually need to borrow a little bit from our friends in the Eastern tradition, who really focus a lot on this idea of sort of trying to find an element of release, of letting go of the mishigas, to put it back in our terms, right? To let it go of all the junk, and to really try to make ourselves kamidbar, right? Not a wilderness in the sense of loneliness, not a wilderness in the sense of a place that is devoid of life, but a wilderness that helps us to focus on that which is really most important. And to bring it back, as I said, to my bar mitzvah anniversary and the experience of teaching our students here in our community, is realizing that some of the purest Torah that you will ever hear is out of the mouths of these young people. Because they haven't built up all of the junk that, you're all wonderful. I'll just put it in the eye, right? The junk that I've built up, right? All of the stuff that actually makes it so hard sometimes to just sit down and to study, times where it's hard for me to be able to question that which needs to be questioned. And yet our students regularly do this without even a thought to it, because they're in this sort of spiritual place that we get further and further and further away from the older that we get. So whether you experienced your own bar or bat mitzvah, whether it was this weekend or any other weekend, if you've never experienced it, I'll just make a plug to say that it is never too late. Okay, it's never too late. But for those of us that are further away from our b'nai mitzvah than closer, I think this is actually a good opportunity for us as we prepare for Shavuot, as we prepare to receive the Torah again, to try to get into that mindset of what was it like in those days for me, right? What if I could leave behind all of the stuff of the last decades and come back to the study of my people, of our tradition, of our matana, of our gift that is the Torah, right? How can I find a way to get more into this mind space of really being Kamid Bar, of being in a place that we're not worried about ownership or possession or better than or any of those kinds of things, and simply in the place of a person who is receiving a gift that is truly treasured. So I hope that this will be a meaningful Shabbat for you, first as Parshat Bamidbar, but also as we celebrate Shavuot beginning tomorrow night and into Sunday, and really try again to get into this mentality. What can you do? Let's put it practically. What can you do between now and the beginning of the holiday to make yourselves a little bit more like the wilderness, a little bit more Kamid Bar? So with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and we'll give Cantor Lauren just a few seconds to come back up to the, I won't call it a bima, we'll come up with another name for this at some point or another. And we're going to rise and body our spirit, though, as we mark for the last time this year the counting of the Omer, which is on page 570, 570, and let's just make sure your mic is up.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat Omer hayom tisha v'arba'im yom shehem shiva Shavuot Lamer.
Remain standing as we turn to page 586 at the bottom of the page. Aleinu l'shabeach. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol hatet kedula le'otzeh breshit shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem vegor aleinu kechol hamonam אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Now invite those in mourning and those observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We'll begin by thinking of those who passed in our community in recent months. Dr. John Abdrakin, Martin Blake, Faith Diskin, Linda Danath, Arlene Eber, Jay Fagan, Ellen Frank, Chaim Bear Greenwald, Arthur Grossman, Gerald Hirsch, Mark Joseph, Jane Beard Cass, Gertrude Katz, Deirdre Klein, Elaine Krotman, Emmanuel Kiprios, Leo Leibowitz, William Lipman, Audrey Lubo, Sandra Tromberg-Luongo, Nancy Nagel, Harry Olstein, Jeannie Rubin, Howard Schreier, David Sent, Anita Sheldon, Alan Silver, Marlise Silverberg, and Matthew Adam Zimmer. We also marked the yard sites that occurred during the last week for Sylvia Bone, Miriam Brandolini, Tilly Sandler-Danoff, Dallas Ernst, Barbara Friedman, Harry Friedman, Molly Goldstein, Ruth Gonzer, Anna Harris, Irving Heller, Libby Kamenkow, Samuel Koffler, Donald Kyle, Meyer Noah Levine, Edith Miller, Bruce Martin Norton, Morris Raff, Jerome Irwin Ridner, Richard Rube, William Schwartz, Sarah Florence Simon, Jeffrey Spanier, Rachel Waldman, and Charlotte Walk. Is there anyone else here who is saying Kaddish for someone that we did not mention? I'll invite those on the stream and on the Zoom to add the names of your loved ones as well. And we'll rise in body or spirit as the mourners join together with me on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael v'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam le'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Zicronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing.
Amen.
Okay, please be seated. And Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Well, it's still kind of muted from earlier. I thought maybe we'd build up in the momentum, but Cantor did great. You all did great. We got a beautiful evening for this. We hope it'll continue for the rest of the summer. And thank you to everybody again who remembered to bring your chairs. Very appreciated. We'll try again to do this every Friday night if we can. So just a few very important announcements. First is to join us for Shabbat services tomorrow morning at 9:30. You're welcome to join us in person if you fulfill our COVID protocol needs. We're going to be in the chapel, so the entrance is the side of the building just over here. You're also welcome to join us, as always, on Zoom or live streaming on our website, YouTube, or Facebook channels. Also, a reminder that tomorrow is the first Shabbat of the month, so we are very honored to welcome Rabbi Rebecca Joseph, who is going to lead and facilitate our Women's Torah Commentary Torah study. Reminder again, Torah study is on Zoom only. It is open to all, and we welcome everyone, and Dr. Joseph is a wonderful teacher and has been with us before, and we're really looking forward to a great discussion. A reminder, as I said, that tomorrow evening begins the holiday of Shavuot, and to celebrate the beginning of the holiday, we will observe the Tikkun Leil Shavuot, the tradition of learning. Traditionally, you're supposed to learn all the way through the night until the morning. And, you know, as I've always said, I don't even think your rabbi can handle that. I can't imagine most of us here or otherwise are going to be able to necessarily fulfill that. But we start later in the evening, and we're honored, as we've done the last few years, to partner with our friends at the Jewish Center of the Hamptons in East Hampton, and my friend Rabbi Franklin, and Rabbi Wyman as well. And each of us is going to get a chance to teach a little something. You can join us in person at JCOH. You just have to make sure that you sign up and you give them whatever it is that they need from you in advance. Or you can sign up and be on the Zoom as well. So again, that will begin tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. And then a reminder that on Sunday morning, our Shavuot service will be held on Zoom only. This includes the Yizkor service, and that will begin on Sunday at 10 o'clock as well. A reminder of a few other events coming up this week. Nina Mitzvah will be meeting at 11:30 on Monday, and my virtual class on Heschel's book, The Prophets, meets at 12 o'clock. The Social Justice Committee will have its regular meeting at 5 o'clock on Zoom. Also on Tuesday, there is a lecture and light meal at the East End Food Institute on the campus of Stony Brook Southampton College at 4 o'clock. And then later on Wednesday, there is a board meeting at 7:30. Also, a reminder that this Thursday, we are very honored to welcome on Zoom Scott Richmond, who is the regional director of the ADL, and he's going to speak as part of our increasing series of events built out of our new but really wonderful anti-Semitism committee, always looking for others that might want to participate in helping us to discuss and explore this very important topic in our community. And so Scott will be with us again on Thursday evening to discuss the state of anti-Semitism and, very importantly, how we are to confront it. So again, please register ahead of time. All that will be on Zoom as well. Coming up later this month, we have the tour of the Judith Lieber Museum and Gardens with a lunch at Cida. Whoa, I've never actually pronounced it correctly. What is the restaurant called in East Hampton? Okay, Celia says Cida Nuova. Okay, I'm working on my Hebrew. My Italian is much worse. So, in any case, we'll also welcome later in the month, as a celebration of Pride Month, our guest speaker, Rachel Silverman of Keshet, which is a wonderful organization that promotes LGBTQ equality, and especially in Jewish life. And this will be a session that is open to all, again, on Zoom. Also, Ruth Joseph's book group will continue, as well as a Halleckville Museum farm and lunch tour lunch at the Red Rooster Bistro. Also, very, very important, two really major events that are coming up in June. This is June 21st, if I remember correctly. This is a Friday night, 2 weeks from now. Yes? 17th, thank you very much. So as part of a really remarkable effort here at the Temple and the Social Justice Committee taking the absolute lead on this, to create the Road Forward Scholarship, which has been a work of tremendous effort and passion, and one that really speaks to the idea that both within our specific community of Temple Adas Israel, but our wider East End community, that there are wonderful young people again, who take on this idea of Torah in its broadest sense, right, of trying to do and be the best in the world that they can be. And we've created, through really hard work and through generosity, a wonderful scholarship that will help them as they begin their life studying in school and in college. And I just want to thank all those that are with us tonight who have been such a key piece of that effort. I'll thank you more when we get there. But this is a great Shabbat to be a part of. So if it's nice out, it'll be right here. Otherwise, it'll be right inside. And we're really looking forward to that as well. Beyond that, also just a reminder of our annual members and friends cocktail party. So you should have received all the information that you need. If you fall into the friends category, you're not a member of the temple, but you're interested in joining with us and coming too. My understanding is that you are welcome to do that, but we just need to know who you are. We need to know that you're coming. We need to follow all the specific rules. But we're really looking forward to that and being able to celebrate our honoree, Gail Gambino, who we all adore and appreciate, and one of our wonderful teachers from the Hebrew School, Diane Schiffman, as well. So, with all of that, just two other logistical things. One is everything basically from the wires forward. Let's just not come anywhere near them when we're done, because it seems like it actually worked tonight, and now I need to make sure that I do it the same way next time. And I thank all of you for being guinea pigs, and those that are watching on the stream, you can tell me if it worked out well on that end. But I appreciate us just trying new things, right? That's the fun of it, and I really appreciate it. But like I said, just to leave all of the wires, all of this stuff kind of in place until we're all finished, and then I'll pack it up and take it away. So with that, Cantor Lauren actually has a great closing song this evening, one that relates to our holiday. So Cantor, you want to tell us a little bit about it?
In honor of the holiday of Shavuot that is coming up really soon, I'm sharing a piece that was composed by one of my dear friends, and the text actually comes from the book of Ruth, which is what we read on Shavuot. And in this text, Ruth is pleading with her mother-in-law Naomi and saying that she is going to stay with her. If you catch on, please sing along.
Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. And your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. And your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Ki el asher telchi elech, uva asher talini nalin, amech amin, Elohai Elohai. that I will lodge, and your people shall be my people, and your God, my God, and your God, my God, and your God, my God.
We'll rise and body our spirit as we turn to page 123 for Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'yahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikrahei kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'chata me'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Okay, and we're going to be extra careful, everybody, extra careful as we start to find our way home. But Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Celia, do you need a hand? I can come over and help. Celia, you want some help? You got it. Okay. All right. Good Shabbos to all of our friends online. And, I was going to say, if you can, just bring the prayer books back and stack them right over here would be very, very helpful. Thank you to Bob and Josie. Yeah, let's just make sure.
I also realized I had this all the way on the lowest volume.
But actually,